Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Buenas, this is Francisco Gallardo with the Healing Generations podcast, Elder Edition. Before we get started, I want to thank all our listeners, our subscribers. If this is your first time listening, please subscribe, follow, like, let people know about it too. Share if you find something useful in it. Healing is a journey. It's definitely not a destination. It's not somewhere you're going to just get to. And it's something you have to work at constantly depending on what's happening in your life. And it's just one of those times where we always want to take time to breathe and think about the Creator, And with that, I want to acknowledge the four directions. It's how we always start, how at least I start my podcast is I want to invite each of you to look to the east, the direction of the men. We take time to think about all our men in our life, our grandfathers, our fathers, our sons, our homies, our tios, all the trauma that they've been through, all the blessings that they bring. We want to think about them in our lives, and we want to remember them. And then we're going to turn around to our left. And as we're going there, we're thinking about the spectrum in between the East and the West. There are many of our relatives who do not fit just in the men gender role or the woman gender role. We want to think about them and acknowledge them and the blessings that they bring and the struggles that they face as well. As we face the West, we think about our grandmothers, our mothers, our partners, our daughters, our tias, the women we work with in the community. We want to think about them and all the blessings and struggle that they bring. We want to think about all the blessings that they have, that they bring to us and they share with us. We're going to turn again all the way to the north. We're going to think about our elders, about our ancestors, the things that the ancestors, they prayed for us even before we were here. They thought about us, wanted life to be better for us, the things that they endured. We want to think about them. We want to think about all those blessings. We also want to think about our elderly folks, our grandmas, the ones that are older in the community. We want to think about our community elders, that they're okay, that they have food, that they have heat, all the things that they need to be okay, all the work that they did on our behalf. And then we turn around again to the south and we think about the future generations, the children yet to be born, our children that are here. We want to think about them, that we're going to try to do our best to make life better for them and pay attention to their needs and their concerns, until they're ready to take over. We're the ones that have to keep it together for them. And then we want to think about the sun, Tonantiu, think about all that represents the light, the hope, and then the earth, Mother Earth. We want to touch the earth and think about her, the things that she gives us, that we have to take care of her, so she'll be here for our future generations. And then in the center for the Creator, whatever you believe, however you pray, however you think, we want to acknowledge the Creator just for life and give thanks, regardless of what's going on in our life. The fact that we're breathing, it's still good, We want it to be that way for each of us. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time to acknowledge the four directions, acknowledge our ancestors, things like that. So on to our podcast. Today we have a special guest. Like I said before, all my guests are special, but Alex in particular, we have Alex Sanchez from Homies Unidos. I haven't introduced himself formally, but he's definitely an inspiration for me, going through life. He's, he's been persecuted, he's been incarcerated, he's been injured, but he still has hope. He still has a vision for young people that I think is important. Not only that he has it for young people, but he has it for all those that are facing trauma in their lives and still finding a way to have enough hope to deal with the healing, in a good way. And there's so much work to be done in the field that he chooses to contribute in our community to. So without further ado, I want to welcome Alex. If you could go ahead and share a little bit about yourself, your family, your background, and your journey up to this point in life.
Well, that'll take me longer than 3 hours, brother. But my name's Alex Sanchez. I'm the executive director of Homies Unido, which is a violence prevention, intervention, and reentry. That we're located just west of downtown of Los Angeles in the Pico Union, Westlake, Koreatown area. So we've been doing this work for over 20 years, and our organization started in El Salvador because I am Salvadoran in 1996. And it was because so many of us were being deported after doing time in prison that many of us didn't want to get caught up in the cycle of violence. And some friend of mine's got together and was guided by this brother named Magdaleno Rosa Avila, who had worked for Cesar Chavez, Amnesty International, and was down there writing a book that he saw, there's homies walking down the street and asking where they were from. And the homies said, we're from LA, but we got deported, right? And it was just a statement alone just meant that how many of us that had grown up as kids and into adulthood in Los Angeles consider ourselves from the United States, right? Even if they deport us. So out of that, there was an opportunity to do some research out of a University of Educa in El Salvador, and from there, over 1,200 gang members were brought in, old, new, deported, homegrown, women, men, and they did the research. And the idea of starting something to help each other arise. And obviously, all of us are always used in some way or another. So they used the homies to do the research, but they didn't believe in them to do their own nonprofit, right? So the homies again went alone and did it themselves without any support, and that's how Homeboys Unidos was started, ¿verdad? But we had some strong women there, and they said, "Wait a minute, Homeboys only implies men." And if we're gonna do this right, we got to be inclusive of the hyenas here in the barrio. And that's the reason why it became Homies Unidos, to be inclusive of the women that were part of it. So that's how I realized what had happened in El Salvador, and I started, learning more. I was introduced to Barrios Unidos in Santa Cruz with my mentor, Arane Alejandres, who had been doing this work for over 25 years at that time. And he still is now. So he's been my motivation to keep going in this line of work. I started the organization in Los Angeles in my old block. And from then on, we started doing work. It hasn't been easy, during 2000 when we started doing more programming. We were
Mhm.
attacked by LAPD several times. I became part of the infamous Rampart scandal, which put my case on the spotlight through media and stuff. My case brought out how LAPD was using immigration as a tool to force people to be snitches with the threat of deportation, and also framing people. And I was put in a situation where they wanted to deport me because of the work that I was doing. So we fought it, and we won the case in 2002. And by the time I came out, there was a nonprofit when I didn't even know what a nonprofit was, and that's how I ended up given a title as a program director when I didn't know I could have a title. And then in 2005, they gave me another title, which was the executive director, and so on, man. But I've had more other obstacles in 2009 when the federal government came after me again with a federal indictment. As you mentioned, Gerardo Lopez had been one of our kids in 2000, that have fled Los Angeles to Denver. And he was trying to do his thing out there, working for you and whatnot, and when you work for Grasp, and shortly thereafter I was indicted, with the same mentality of trying to get rid of me. So, and him, and luckily for both of us, we fought it and we both won, which is like 2% of all cases that end up in the federal government ever either get dismissed or they won in the jury, which means that we were one of those 2%ers that really made it through the vicious attack of the federal government.
Yeah, that still amazes me, that a lot of people just give in. They say, oh, I'd rather just do what I got to do and I'll get out at some point. But you guys stuck with it. I appreciate that because a lot of times the government will do that, come after somebody, and yeah, it's the end. So, with that, what lessons have you learned from your culture, your family, your experiences along the way that helped you in your own healing and development?
Yeah, well, I would say in 1999, I had this brother that was coming to one of our programs just to be a facilitator, helping us out, and he invited me over to a sweat lodge. And I said, oh, no, man, my jefita, had always told us that that's brujeria. I really don't want to be part of that, right? And he started telling me, no, it's different. You should go. There's a couple of guys from Homeboy Industry that's going to go there, you know. And I said, all right, firme. All right. So I trusted the process. And brother, man, I had a spiritual journey before then. I was trying to find that spot where I was connected spiritually with the creator, right? And I had not found it in any religion and spaces that I went to until that day that I went to the sweat lodge. I felt so connected spiritually with the creator. And when I came out, I said, why hasn't anybody come at me before with this? Why had I had to learn that I'm indigenous by a white man that brought me here? Because he was a white man that brought me. No white professor was the one that introduced me to this. And although I felt that I was connected, I really went through a healing process at that moment because I did see a vision in the piedras, in the hot rocks there during the sweat lodge. And it was one of my dead homies that had died 10 years before. They came to me and told me basically in spirit, I'm pleased with what you're doing. It basically solidified my decisions to like redirect my energy in my barrio to a positive energy, right? Instead of being negative, I was doing something positive in the hood, and the homies were responding to it. So I felt that basically gave me the power to be able to continue in my path, not only in regards to the work that I do, but in regards to spiritually connecting with my ancestors, as part of my healing process. And that's when I really began to heal. And I'm not, I'll tell you one thing, I'm not like that type of actor that's going to be dressing like an indigenous folks and dancing and being a danzante and in sweat lodge every weekend. No, bro, it's never about that type or religion. I felt that it was beautiful the way that it was introduced to me in a way that I could always rely on this old traditional ways of healing.
Well, I appreciate that because I do believe that the sweat lodge and other ceremonies, give you permission to heal in a different way. And there always is the residue of the stories and the cargas that are told to us that, we can't always just push aside. They're there in us, and we have to do something with it or we take it home. We do different things with it. So tell me what you're doing now with yourself and your organization, and what are you doing to build on all those lessons that you learned?
Well, most of the programs that we have for our organization, Homies Unidos, has been basically modeled by all my experiences in life, right? As an immigrant kid coming from El Salvador, right, in 1979 when I was 7 and my little brother was 5 by some smugglers, so we work with the unaccompanied minors right now, and are dealing with the issues of culture shock, right, and the culture clash that they're introduced to in this country. It's not a beautiful process to come into this country as a child, as a kid, with all the diversity inside the schools. It becomes a war zone for many of our unaccompanied minors, and many of them get caught up in a cycle of violence. You know, I was an immigrant. I got criminalized. I went through the juvenile hall system. So we're working in the juvenile hall camps, bringing in, some healing by bringing in poetry and doing a curriculum that helps them deal with their own manhood, and trying to make the right decisions in their lives, right? That's while they're incarcerated. We do it with the women camps too. We also go to the prisons. Right now, I was incarcerated in prison, and I had an immigration hold, right, which ended up having me be deported. Well, we go to prisons and we meet with those individuals that not necessarily are just about ready to go home, but and not even deal with having to present a parole board, right, because they're getting out. But we're talking about some of the lifers, that are in prison, that have immigration holds, right? That when they go out for a parole board hearing, they can have everything ready in regards to what a citizen person would need to have to be set free. But for them, the fact that they have an immigration hold, they need to provide a reentry plan from the country of origin where they might be getting deported to. And that becomes so difficult because they don't have no ties back at home. So starting with El Salvador, because that's who we connect with the most, we started a campaign to first implement our first transnational reentry program in which we provide that reentry plan from those brothers that do not have any families left, and they're able to provide that reentry plan to the parole board hearings here. And then once they get over there, we have somebody that goes pick them up at the airport. They're able to go to us temporary housing, and we try to get work for them, right, as well as Alcoholics Anonymous or any other services that they might need. So those things, we're still working on really solidifying that program because we haven't got no funding for that. But we have these familias of those brothers that are in prison, bro, the ones that we're working with, they started their own committee. They call it El Comité de Apoyo a Privados de Libertad. That's the support group for people incarcerated, right? And these are mothers, there's our immigrant mothers. Most of them do not speak English, which was a sector that has been left out of the criminal justice movement. Those immigrant criminalized familias, right? And these familias have recently created this committee that we call it Capril, right? The acronyms of, and these are mothers, bro, that have come into organization broken, broken, crying, no support from anywhere. And we've been able to grab these familias, give them the support that they needed, the respect that they deserve, bro. And these familias have become the advocates, man. So we go to Sacramento at least 3 or 4 times a year to advocate for policy change, push on some of the bills that are going to impact our population, and the familias are front and center, man. They are not afraid to speak in Spanish anymore. We give them translators, man. They become so powerful that they don't not afraid. They don't bow their heads to authority anymore, bro.
Mm.
They've gone so strong because they know that their voice is making change. So this comité is the one that's raising those funds for their programs in El Salvador because they're able to do fundraising. But we continue to need support for that. But all the way around, brother, right now we're about to start a program for homeless homies, basically. A lot of our homies that are coming out of prison, they're going into encampments, man.
Mhm.
And it's all bad. Now the violence is in those encampments too. And we're going to be starting a project that's called the Homeless Peace Initiative in our community around this area, especially in the city district 1. And we're also going to be working, right, we're going through the process of all the trainings to work with DCFS. Some of the youngsters that are being taken away from abused homes and whatnot, right? Temporarily, they're being housed in shelters, and we're going to be able to do that as an alternative, and reimagining the shelters and the systems of that incarcerate our young men and women, and we're going to be there and we're going to create those relationships for them to be able to them understand how to better deal with those issues that come in life. So we've been pretty busy along the traditional things that we do around violence intervention, We have, part of the grid funding for the Olympic area. We got two of our guys doing outreach in the community over there with homies. They're putting them to work. They're putting them to do arte. They advocate for them in court. That's one element of the work that we do. We do some prevention work with some of the youngsters at right here at Manuel Contreras High School, and we're going to be working with some other schools in the area, especially with that risk youth. So we have a group in English. That we have a lot of women, mostly young ladies that are coming from the school that has nothing but young women that need the support, and they're finding the support here. And there's not a lot of work that's being done with the young ladies, and they found a space over here with us, that we're addressing their needs. So and so we have the support groups, right? And we have our program, of course, the tattoo removal. That we have some of the youngsters that want to move on, that decided already that they done their time in the streets, and they want to think about themselves and start healing. Removing that tattoo could give them a little hand in regards to finding a job, employment, and also not be stopped by police all the time, or even become victims of a crime, right? Victims of the senseless taking of lives in the streets by the barrios, right? They have a better chance of surviving without all those tacas on their faces and their hands and whatnot. We're just trying to keep the homies alive. We're trying to make them go through 25, brother. If a homie makes it to 25, he's okay. He'll be okay. So we're just trying to help these youngsters survive till 25 when their brain is fully developed. And we're hoping that we can influence their development by thinking positive instead of negative by they get to that age. So definitely, brother, we're open. We've been doing our Joven Noble, and we've been able to take it, through supports and stuff, to take it to there's the brother Luis Cardona that's doing them. I'm only in contact with them in Maryland. There's the brothers Sergio and Mia in Long Island. That's a big Central American community. They were introduced by me to the Joven Noble program, and now they're implementing it. And there's many opportunities, that we're going. Personally, I've been helping a lot of brothers that are caught up in the system, and they're barely going through the process of their cases. And I've served as a gang expert for the defense in many of those cases where I come in, bro, and humanize that brother that the prosecutor's expert has just demonized, and the fact that I'm there, I was part of it, and I'm the expert, really changes the way that the jury would look at that youngster, and now they're going to judge him by the evidence, not just what it looks like.
That's all beautiful work, man. It's very inspiring, and it seems exhausting at the same time, man. I know that it's a lot of work. So through that, through all the work that you did, what's the counsel or advice you would give to others in terms of health and healing, and those that are doing this work right now, having your experience, what would you advise to keep them positive, keep them going, keep them focused,
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the key. I used to do this myself, and now I have a team. Some real good, solid people have joined the team that now are taking on a lot of those responsibilities that I just talked about. I'm not the ones that are implementing the programs anymore. I have somebody else, right? I'm the advisor now of those that I'm replicating, right? So we can't just hog tie this thing, bro. We need to show other brothers that they can do it themselves, and they can work with us and have all they need is some coaching, all they need is some training. And we got, one of the brothers that's doing the connected with the brothers in prison. He did 30 years in prison, 31 years in prison, and he was helped by us as well to get out. The madre that's doing the Capri committee, she's a mother that has someone incarcerated, right? So she's got the passion. We have, some of the youngsters that are doing the youth programs, right? The prison, the juvenile work, as well as the círculos, the Joven Noble. Those are two people that both themselves, one has been an immigrant, the other has been a homie, right? And together they become this unique team to do that work. So the issue is that you cannot do this by yourself. You need others to support you, right? Not just financially, that's one thing, but when you start a project, bro, you need to bring in others that have like-minded like you, that has the passion, and you have to work through many of the obstacles of not thinking, or thinking that they're going to think the same way that you do. And they're not
Hmm.
gonna, never going to think. They're going to want to come in and change the curriculum. And you got to listen to them. You got to hear them out. And you got to tell them, you own it. Use your experience to make an impact in life. And I think that when I said that most of these programs are based on what I would have needed during the time that I was going through this, bro. I think that's one of the things that I would say is, don't walk away from your experience in life. You are your own expert, and you have the solutions because you lived through it. The fact that you don't have a PhD, the fact that you don't have a degree, has not stopped me from going into courtrooms and be deemed a gang expert. Has not stopped me going into immigration courtroom and say I'm not an expert. Because our life experience, brother, is what makes us an expert. All those PhD people that have written books about us, it's about us. It's about our experiences. We are the solution. And it's about time that we take ownership of that, those spaces, when you have other professors or whatnot talking about they're the gang experts and and have the lives of all these homies in their hands, and they don't say, they don't speak, and they don't present the information like we would, being that we had lived that life. So we're experts, man. We should never put ourselves down because we're formerly incarcerated immigrants or don't speak English, bro. Every one of us, man, is an expert in their own field, and we should never make that an obstacle.
That's beautiful advice. Increase your network, own your experience. Don't let anybody supersede what you know. I mean, that's beautiful because I think a lot of our people, including me, when I was younger, probably felt a little, kind of what they call imposter syndrome. Like, do I deserve to be in this space? But we deserve it, and the people that we're trying to help deserve the proper representation, and it needs to be us for us, which I totally agree with. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you have a lot of stuff going on. I was definitely pleasantly surprised when we finally agreed on a time to get this done. So I really appreciate you. I also want to remind you, have your staff come to the Circle Keeper circle that we have once a month, just to keep their skills sharpened. And of course, those that are doing the work, they need a chance to share their cargas and regalos at the same time, right? It's a part of that balance and all that. So I want to thank you. Where can people find out more about all things Alex Sanchez and the work of Homies Unidos?
Well, we have a page on Facebook, Homies Unidos. We're on TikTok now. We just started TikTok. One of our staff started it. We're on Instagram, but we also have a website, homiesunidos.org. We wish we could keep it up to date on it, bro, but it's just tough. I don't have a technical guy here. I most of the time have to do everything, but soon we're gonna have a new page with more information. But you can contact us through our website, through our Facebook page. If you need support, if you want tattoo removal, bro, and if you live in San Bernardino and don't have access to that, and you think you can come once a month over to us, man, reach out to us. Or if you're in Riverside or Santana, whatever, if we could do a service, brother, we could do that. If you're somebody that's facing deportation and you have been criminalized and you want to know, not a legal advice, a personal advice, we could probably even refer you to some attorneys that you could go to. But we can at least give you some preliminary information that might help you decide if you have a chance or not. right? Instead of just going blinded into an attorney that just takes your money. We've seen too much of that. But give us a call. We're open. We're our phone number is 213-383-7484. You will get somebody to pick up the phone now. A few months earlier, you probably get a machine. Now we have somebody there, taking care of the front office. We're open during this pandemic. You can volunteer with us. We do food distribution once a month, in 5 different communities. So you can join us. We collaborate with the Black and Brown. We have a campaign. It's called Black and Brown Breaking Bread. And basically, we take food into different communities throughout South LA, and we collaborate with some of our brothers, our Black brothers in those communities to be able to break bread. And I think that that's critical too. So definitely, man, if you could organize, a spot in your neighborhood that needs food right now, give us a call. Give us a call. Organize it, man. If we can arrange it, we'll be there. I know that there's many people during this pandemic that have died, many fathers that can't provide. Well, sabes que, that's what we're here for, to serve our community. Call us, let us know. We plan it out. We'll do it.
Thank you, Alex. You heard it, Raza. If you need anything, reach out to Homies Unidos. I think that's important. And two, I wanted to point out, we're also, this Healing Generations podcast is on iHeartRadio. So if you're behind the walls or you have relatives that are locked up, they can listen to this podcast too. And they can hear it and get some knowledge, when it comes to healing. You can start your healing journey today. If you don't have to wait until a certain time. If you want to start, now's the time. So again, I want to thank all our listeners, our followers, subscribers. If you want to learn more about what's going on with the National Compadres Network, just go to nationalcompadresnetwork.org. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, you can find us on all social media. Again, thank you so much. Appreciate you so much, Alex, and all the work. Say what's up to all your staff from the Compadres Network. Aho, palabra.
Aho.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.